Mariam had that exciting dream again. It seemed that she could not forget this man. When she thought of him, her heart began to tremble. Those memories were like a scar. They disfigured life and caused discomfort. Entering the room, Mariam saw her younger brother, Trevor. He was sitting next to a folded suitcase. "Have you started packing your things yet? I thought you said you still had a whole week before you left." Mariam wondered. "It will be problematic if I forget to take something. That's why I need to pack everything in advance and check that everything is in place," Trevor explained and stretched sweetly. Trevor had just recently returned after traveling abroad for 3 years. He had opened a sandwich store in the capital city. The popularity of the store was steadily increasing. For this reason, he decided to open a new store in a neighboring town. "And how long will you be away?" asked Mariam to her brother. He replied that he would be away from home for about 3 months. "When the store opens, I will have to see to it that it is set up. But that's not what you have to worry about at all. You're going to have another problem soon." "What are you talking about now?" Mariam asked, perplexed. "A friend of mine recently moved in next door. You'll recognize him right away, since you already know each other. I would like to point out that this friend is a very reliable person," replied Trevor. "As far as I know, your friends can't be reliable. All right, let's leave that out. So who is this friend? Michael, Gabriel?" Mariam began to guess. The girl really hoped it wasn't him. A trustworthy friend is a completely different person. Mariam heard the doorbell ring. Opening the door, the girl saw him. She couldn't avoid seeing him. Seeing the handsome male lips, Mariam remembered her 18th summer. A few years ago, when Mariam returned home, she saw his friends in her brother's room. They were animatedly discussing something. That day was the first time Mariam had seen him, an attractive boy with beautiful lips. She would never have thought that her brother had friends like that. The guy got up from the floor and walked up to Mariam. He greeted the girl cheerfully. "Trevor must be happy to have such a cute little sister," said the guy and patted the girl on the head. "She's not a little sister. She's an older sister. And by the way, she has a pretty bad temper. I wouldn't advise you to touch her." Without taking his eyes off the computer monitor, Trevor said, "Oh, sorry, you're so cute I couldn't resist," the boy said, embarrassed. 3 years later, Seward kissed Mariam for the first time, stealing her first kiss. "Hey, Mariam, what's wrong with you? Why are you frozen? Don't you recognize Seward?" Trevor snapped his fingers in front of his sister's face. "Hello, Mariam." With a gentle smile on his face, Seward said. The girl noted that he had grown from a handsome boy into an attractive man. "Hi, it's been a long time since I've seen you." Pulling herself together, Mariam replied. "Yes, it's been 10 years since the last time we met," said Seward. "What's wrong with you? Are you embarrassed because you haven't seen each other in 10 years? Trevor cradled his sister Mariam with one hand and his old friend Seward with the other. Trevor was right. Even though 10 years had passed, Mariam was still uncomfortable around Seward. Mariam is the same as she's always been. It's been so many years, she's still just as beautiful, Seward remarked. And you still speak beautiful words with your beautiful lips. If things were like before, I would just laugh at it, but now I can't react like before. Mariam mentally turned to Seward. And you're still just as crazy, said Trevor to his buddy and patted him on the shoulder. Seward offered his friends to celebrate his move, but Mariam declined. Trevor tried to talk his sister into it, but she, citing not feeling well, went to her room. Entering the room, Mariam closed the door tightly behind her. The girl leaned her back against the door and sighed heavily. She had hoped that she would never see Seward again, but something had gone wrong. Suddenly, Mariam remembered why she had broken up with Seward. A few days before, he had stopped calling her his girlfriend. He had introduced her as his friend's elder sister. Mariam decided to end the relationship after she saw Seward kissing some girl. Mariam decided not to fight with Seward, not to make scandals. She simply stopped communicating with him. As time went by, they became distant from each other, and their relationship fizzled out. Well, why did he drink so much? Mariam was indignant. Seward stood on the doorstep. He was holding the drunk Trevor tightly. Don't tell me. I don't understand it myself. Seward replied with a smile. The girl asked him why he was sober as a whistle. Why had he allowed his friend to get drunk? And I don't like to drink much, so I drank just a little. I didn't even notice Trevor was drunk, Seward replied. Will you help me carry him to his room? Miriam asked Seward. It will be much easier if I carry him myself, said Seward to the girl. His friend was so drunk that he was absolutely unable to stand on his feet. He was wobbling from side to side. Trevor's bed was a few meters away. The girl took her brother under her arm to gently lay him down. Suddenly, Trevor stumbled and began to fall. He pulled his friend and sister with him. Opening her eyes, Miriam noticed that she was lying on Seward's arm. Are you okay? You didn't hit yourself? Asked Seward to the girl. A while later, Seward and Miriam all managed to get Trevor on the bed. After leaving her brother's room, Miriam closed the door tightly behind her. Seward asked her how she was feeling. And what are you talking about? Are you about my health? Yeah, I took the pills and it went away. But now they make me drowsy. Miriam remembered that she had refused to go to Seward's moving party, citing her health. Talking about how she felt sleepy after the pills, the girl really hoped Seward would go home. Ah, I see. In that case, have a good rest, said Seward and went home. He turned out to be very clueful. Upon entering the room, Miriam sprinted to her bed. If it happens again, Trevor might guess that I'm avoiding Seward. Then an extremely strange situation will come out. I really hope things will get better when my brother leaves. Miriam decided to escort her brother on his way. Seward joined her. Seward, take care of my little sister while I'm gone, Trevor asked before leaving. Don't worry, go ahead and drive. Everything will be fine, Seward promised his buddy. Seward, I never congratulated you on your move. Welcome to our neighborhood. Let's get along. Miriam held out her hand to Seward. She didn't want any misunderstandings. She saw no point in continuing to avoid him. Okay, let's get along, said Seward and shook the girl's hand. Well, now that you and I are finally starting to communicate, answer me a few questions. Are you avoiding me? Did I hurt you in some way and you started to hate me? Is it because of that kiss? Seward asked. What makes you think that? First of all, I'm not avoiding you. Secondly, I'm not interested in you. I don't see you as a man, replied Miriam. Then why is your face so red? Seward inquired. I just don't want to remember that day, and I don't want you to tease me about it. But I assure you that I have absolutely no reason to hate you or treat you like a man. Lowering her eyes, Miriam said, But if I am not a man in your eyes, then what am I? Asked Seward. You are like a brother to me, someone like Trevor, replied Miriam. Okay, I have plenty of time, said Seward. That's good that you have plenty of time. I don't have a lot of time and I have a lot to do, so I'm going to go. Miriam headed for the entryway doors. Miriam, don't you want to see my apartment? You told me you see me as your little brother. Aren't you curious about where I live? Shouted Seward. On top of that, you're still living with your brother in the same apartment, so it's no big deal to come to my place. I'm a brother, not a man. It's okay for single girls to go to brothers. What does that have to do with what I said? Yes, we live together, but only to save on the monthly rent, Miriam exclaimed. Do you think that if Trevor and I lived in different places, I would come to his house to spend time with him? If you suddenly change your mind, come over. You can even drop by my house in the middle of the night to visit. Know that I will always be waiting for you, said Seward, walking close to the girl. My apartment number is 1127, Seward whispered in the girl's ear. Without saying a word, Miriam disappeared into the entryway. Of course, I guess she didn't think I was a man, but still I should have tried. It's such a rare chance. I should be more careful next time. I'll do it right this time, Seward promised himself. He probably realized that I was uncomfortable being around him, and I told him he was like a brother to me, but I doubt he took those words seriously. He's already realized that I'm just pretending like everything is fine, Miriam thought to herself. What am I supposed to do now? I can only hope that everything will be resolved in time. Even if we can't go back to where we started, at least we won't feel awkward around each other. After changing, Miriam went to work. She was a teacher at an art academy. Miriam went to the window and looked outside. Across from the academy was a veterinary clinic. Suddenly, the girl noticed that there was a new doctor at the veterinary clinic. It was Syward. Strange. Did he really get a job at this veterinary clinic? Why didn't I ask him about it? I didn't realize he had trained to be a veterinarian. I didn't know he was, though. He always told me he wanted to be a veterinarian, Miriam thought. Miriam, along with her students, decided to go to a nearby cafe. Suddenly, someone entered the cafe. The students gasped in surprise, saying that they had never seen such a handsome man before. They assumed he was an actor or singer. Turning around, Miriam saw Seward. He had come into the cafe with some girl with glasses. "Hi, I didn't know you worked around here," smiling, said Seward to Miriam. "I work at an art academy," told Miriam. "And I work in the building across the street. By the way, we recently got 3 cute kittens, so if you have time, come see them," said Seward. "All right. As soon as I have a spare minute, I'll come by and see you. Now you must go. Your friend is waiting for you." Miriam gently pushed Seward away from her. "You're right. I have to go. I'll see you later," said Seward, and headed towards the table where the girl with glasses was waiting for him. "Maybe it's a lot simpler than I think. I really hope we eat together soon," Miriam thought to herself. Back home, Miriam looked in the refrigerator. Unfortunately, it was empty. The girl put on her jacket and went to the store. In the hallway, Miriam ran into Seward. He was scrutinizing some leaflets. "Listen, do you happen to know where to eat here or buy some food?" Seward asked the girl. "There's a convenience store right next to the house here. When I run out of food, I go there," replied Miriam. "I really want to eat a pizza, but it's too big for one. I wonder what your brother would say if he found out that his friend and neighbor was eating pizza alone, since his sister refused to pay attention to him." Syward said thoughtfully. "Are you now thus suggesting that I have dinner together?" asked Miriam. "Yes, and you don't mind." Seward perked up. "Of course I don't mind. Why not?" replied the girl. "Then why do we need to go shopping when we can order pizza delivery? I suggest we eat at my place." Seward opened the door of his apartment and motioned for the girl to enter. As soon as Miriam crossed the threshold of the apartment, a cat immediately came to her. She began to rub against the girl's legs. "Hello, kitty cat. Why didn't you tell me earlier that you had such a beautiful cat living in your house?" asked Miriam to Seward and stroked the cat. "So, if you knew I had a cat living in my house, you would have come to see it? What a nightmare. I'm losing to a cat. How frustrating this whole thing is for me," grumbled Seward. "By the way, my cat's name is Cookie." Besides pizza, Seward ordered a lot of other food. Miriam was pleased that they felt at ease during dinner, chatting like old friends. "And why did you decide to move here specifically?" asked Miriam. "Just recently I got a good job offer. To be more precise, I received 2 offers. One here and one in the capital. I thought long and hard about which one to accept. The conditions here turned out to be much better, so I'm working in this neighborhood." "I'm glad you're doing something you really enjoy. I remember that you always wanted to be a veterinarian," said Miriam. "But you're doing what you wanted to do too, aren't you? You always wanted to paint and help people. You've worked hard. It's hard to realize yourself in this profession, but you did. By the way, I just recently bought your book. Could you sign it for me?" Syward brought a small stack of books into the room. He told the girl that he had bought several copies and planned to give them away to people he knew. "Now take this marker and sign all these books. I'll brag to my buddies that I personally know the author of the book." As they signed the books, time flew by. Seward chattered away, pestering the girl with questions about her work. Miriam remembered how she had successfully finished her first book, but it had taken her a long time to start the second. I wonder if he regrets that day. Does he feel guilt over that mistake? What if he regrets that 10 years of our time was wasted? Miriam thought to herself as she signed the books. Seward had always been a lonely child, so he valued his time with Trevor and Miriam. Friends had become closer to him than relatives. But be that as it may, eventually my feelings waned. Instead of defending my pride, I just want to forget what happened then and forgive him. and his existence is important to me, even though I don't want to admit it. I can't hate him. Last year, Miriam broke up with her boyfriend of 6 years. After the breakup, they began acting like strangers when they met. And if we had continued dating, couldn't we have dinner together now? It's still great that our relationship ended quickly. Now I'm not going to lose him over something like this, decided Miriam to herself. Sure, I said there were a few job offers, but it wasn't really like that. I only came here for her, thought Seward over dinner. I'd really like to shorten the distance between us as soon as possible, but I'm afraid she'll run away if I rush things. 10 years ago, a lot of things happened that I never had time to tell her about. When I first met Miriam, I was inexperienced and afraid that if I did something wrong, I would ruin our relationship. Now is my last chance to make things right. Maybe tonight is the day I can clear up any misunderstandings that have arisen between us. Seward, what did Trevor ask you to do before he left? Miriam asked unexpectedly. Since I live in the neighborhood, he asked me to keep you company, Seward replied. So he asked you to look after an adult like me because he's going away on a business trip. Don't you think that sounds strange? Asked Miriam. A brother is just worried about his sister. What's weird about that? Uncomprehendingly asked Seward. To be honest, before I moved here, something happened in my old apartment. I had a problem with the front door. It wouldn't close properly. Miriam began her story. One night I heard some noise. When I opened my eyes, I saw a strange man in my room. I screamed loudly. Luckily, my neighbor heard my scream and came to my rescue. The man managed to hit me and escape through the window. Eventually, I found out that he lived 1 floor above. He worked as a delivery boy at a store I used to frequent. It turned out it wasn't his first time stealing. He's in trouble with the law and often shows up at the police station. That man was sent to prison for a short time. He should be out soon. And to be honest, I'm still a little scared. Right after that incident, I couldn't leave the house at all. I still get insomnia. Trevor's had a hard time, too. He's really worried about that situation. I understand his fears and concerns, so I'm being lenient. Don't worry about it. As long as Trevor is out of town, I will protect you, Seward promised. While Seward cleared the table, Miriam lay down on the couch to get some rest and didn't notice how quickly she fell asleep. Seward took a plaid and wanted to cover the girl, but suddenly she grabbed his arm. There is no need to cover me. I will go home and sleep there, said Miriam. Seward asked the girl to stay in his house. Don't come too close to me. There should be a distance between us. There should be a line that we won't cross. And if I want to cross it, what do I do? What if I want to get closer to you? Seward asked. If you come close to me, I'll leave right away. Wait for a while, asked Miriam. The girl planned to go back to where it all started, establish a stable relationship without any deviations, and then move on. When Miriam opened her eyes, she saw Seward sleeping in front of her. He was sitting on the floor, holding her hand tightly. And when did he just manage to take my hand? Thought the girl as she lifted herself up on the couch. Miriam pulled off her plaid and covered Seward with it. The girl walked to the exit door, and as soon as she grasped the handle, she heard Seward's voice. Are you leaving already? It's 2:00 in the morning. Of course I'm leaving. Go to bed. It's getting late, Miriam said in a quiet voice. If you have a bad dream, call me immediately. I'll come to you right away, Seward promised. Back home, Miriam decided to get some work done. She wanted to finish the work she had been putting off for a long time. The girl was writing another book. It was a romance novel. The book was rejected because it lacked romance. Miriam was to make revisions and add some romantic scenes. My debut work was a college romance. It turns out I've lost my touch. It seems as if every cell in my body is resisting love. I need to do something today. The main thing is to start, and the work will follow. The next day, Seward came to visit Miriam. You see, something has happened to the pipes in my bathroom. I got a call from the apartment below saying that their bathroom was leaking from the ceiling. They asked me not to use the bathroom until tomorrow afternoon. Seward explained his visit. So, can I use your bathroom today? Asked Seward. Of course, the girl agreed. She couldn't refuse her neighbor. Seward went to the bathroom and the doorbell rang again. Looking at the intercom screen, the girl saw her ex-boyfriend, Roderick. What's he doing here? Maybe he wants me to help him with something? Or do I have some of his stuff and he wants it back? Wondered the girl. Calming her raging emotions a little, Miriam opened the door. Roderick did not say a word of greeting. He just looked at the girl with a glare. Miriam noted to herself that he hadn't changed at all. What? Brought you here? Stammering with excitement, the girl asked. I want to get my flash drive, replied Roderick. Do I still have your flash drives? For some reason I thought you packed all your stuff, said Miriam, surprised. Remember when you studied human anatomy, I gave you a flash drive with reference materials, reminded the girl Roderick. Miriam remembered that a few years ago when she needed information on human anatomy, Roderick had brought her the flash drive. At that time, he had chosen good textbooks, outlined them, and even drew all the materials on the subject himself. It was thanks to this flash drive that Miriam was able to become a professional artist. Well, I remember, so what of it? The girl asked. I came to take it back, Roderick replied in a calm voice. Miriam had met Roderick at work. He was her co-worker. Roderick was always characterized by his calmness and composure. He even reacted calmly when Miriam suggested that they break up. It had always seemed to Miriam that they had come a long way together. But now that she looked back, she realized that she had always been alone. Wait, you came all this way for some flash drive? Miriam wondered. You didn't answer my emails or my calls. You even ignored private messages. I couldn't find any other way to contact you, replied Roderick. I saw a message from you, but to be honest, I figured you had the wrong chat room. By the way, why do you suddenly need a flash drive? Suddenly, Miriam felt tired. This whole conversation was stressing her out. The flash drive is not for me, but for our assistants. It has data in it that will help them, Roderick explained. Miriam bowed her head doomedly. She really hoped Roderick would come to her someday to talk about their breakup. They had parted quietly, without quarrels, shouts, or scandals. There was a great deal of unsaid, but it seemed like he absolutely didn't care about that. When I moved into this apartment, I packed the flash drive separately from other things, so it will take me a while to find it. Let me give it to you tomorrow, Miriam offered. Please look for it now. I don't feel like coming here again. I'll wait while you look, replied Roderick. No, now is not a good time to look for her. I promise you that as soon as I find her, I will tell the producer of your team and ask him to give her to you. Miriam had no intention of wasting time looking for the flash drive. She had other plans for today. And why give the flash drive to the producer? She's already in a lot of trouble because of our relationship. Let's not bother her over nothing. I don't think it's a good idea to get other people involved. You'd better look for her now, Roderick insisted. Miriam realized that it was useless to argue with Roderick, so she went in search of the flash drive. Who's that? Asked Seward, coming out of the bathroom. He was wearing only his pants and a bath towel. Roderick looked at Seward in surprise. I'll try to find the flash drive as soon as possible and return it to you later. So for now, you can go home. As you can see now, is not a good time. Miriam decided to take advantage of the situation. It was unlikely that Roderick would insist on searching in front of a male stranger. It seems I should have given some sort of warning of my visit after all. Roderick adjusted his glasses in embarrassment. Anyway, I wouldn't have written to you without it being something important, so don't block me, and it would be better if you give me the flash drive when you meet me in person, said Roderick, and left the apartment. Listen closely, I don't hear his footsteps. He hasn't left yet, he's just standing outside the door. What are we going to do with you? I guess you haven't managed to convince him all the way, whispered Seward in the girl's ear. And let's do this, said Seward and kissed his hand loudly. After that, the sound of distant footsteps was heard outside the door. You helped me a lot in this situation, so thank you, said an embarrassed Mariam. By the way, do you still have any feelings for your ex? Unexpectedly, Seward asked. No, absolutely none. I don't even dislike him, replied Mariam. Then you could have just told him I was your boyfriend. It would be better if he knows for sure that you don't have any feelings left for him, advised the girl Seward. And how could I say that without asking your permission? Asked Mariam. From this day forward, I give you permission to use me. Anyway, if it happens again, just call me and say honey. Then I'll understand right away and answer you, Savard said with a smile. Thank you, of course, but I really hope this situation never happens again. Embarrassedly lowering her eyes to the floor, said Mariam, Are you sure? I don't think he came to the other side of town just to get his flash drive, Seward said with a smirk. I've lost my mind after all. What the hell is a flash drive? What the hell is wrong with me? Roderick thought, sitting in the car. Roderick knew that Mariam was too emotional, and that's why she was always unhappy with herself. Roderick always used words like a weapon. With the right packaging of words, he could get anything he wanted from a girl. After the breakup, Roderick did not call her for a while, not because he had no feelings left, but because he thought he had lost his cool. After a couple of months, he realized his stupidity and arrogance, but by then, he had already lost Mariam. Why didn't I treat her better before? Now this guy, those kissing sounds. I know for a fact that Mariam wouldn't cheat on me and pretend to date someone. Going through all the drawers and boxes, Mariam finally found the flash drive. The girl also found some snapshots. When Mariam was dating Roderick, she did everything she could to make their relationship progress. Surprisingly, after their breakup, she felt free. The girl dialed Roderick and suggested him to meet. I need to talk to you about something. Can you spare me a little more time? Roderick asked the girl. If it takes a lot of time, I can't. I can chat with you for about half an hour since I have a meeting scheduled afterward, replied Mariam. I'll quickly listen to what he wants from me, and then I'll head off to dinner with Seward. Mariam decided to herself, hanging up the phone. Hey, you made it, greeted the girl Roderick. Mariam noticed that Roderick had an upset look on his face. Had something happened to him? Maybe he couldn't finish his work by the deadline? Here, your flash drive. And what was it you wanted to talk to me about? If you've already changed your mind, I can leave. Sorry, I didn't actually come to see you yesterday to return the flash drive. I just wanted you to remember things related to it. I wanted to remind you of yourself. After a bit of silence, Roderick said, I was wrong. If you could only forgive me. Too late. I already have a boyfriend. Mariam abruptly interrupted Roderick's monologue. Is this the man I saw yesterday? Asked Roderick. You should have treated me better when we were together. What you're doing now isn't going to change anything. I'm perfectly content with what I have now, and I don't want to go back to the past. Mariam mentally turned to Roderick. I want to end it all and just keep our relationship as a memory. I'm sure if we resume the relationship, it won't lead to anything good. It's pointless. Yes, I'm dating that man you saw yesterday. He's a good man, and I like him a lot, replied Mariam. Suddenly, the phone on the table vibrated. Lowering her eyes, Mariam saw that Seward was calling her. Hi, honey, said the girl into the receiver. I'm done with work, so we can go for dinner. I'll pick you up right now. Where are you? Asked Seward. I'm at a cafe near the intersection right now, replied the girl. Seward asked Mariam to wait for him. If that's what you wanted to talk to me about, I think it's best if we don't see each other anymore. Can you take the flash drive and leave first? Said Mariam to Roderick after hanging up the phone. My boyfriend will come and pick me up now. I'll wait for him here. Roderick remained sitting in his seat with his head down low. Okay, I'll leave first then. I think that's even better. Mariam started from the table and left the cafe. No, it wasn't supposed to end like this, Roderick exclaimed and jumped out of the cafe. Mariam walked on without making any sense of the road. Tears were streaming down her cheeks, mixed with rain. Why don't you have an umbrella? Seward asked. He folded his arms in a house over the girl's head. She really has a meeting with her boyfriend here. You can see that he likes Mariam. He cares for her. I wonder what they talk about on their dates, Roderick thought to himself. Seward took off his jacket and covered the girl with it. He took the girl's hand and led her to the car. Looks like there's no more room for me around you, mumbled Roderick. Are you finished? If not, you can cry some more, said Seward to the girl. I want to, but the tears aren't coming. Apparently I have nothing else to cry about, Mariam muttered. Then you can scream. They say that when a person screams, they feel better, Seward suggested and lowered the windows. Miriam leaned out the window and screamed loudly. Seward handed the girl a handkerchief to wipe the raindrops from her face. Lowering her eyes, the girl saw an umbrella at her feet. You had an umbrella? Then why didn't you use it? Miriam wondered. You were standing in the middle of the road crying, so I decided not to take it. I didn't have a chance to interrupt your sobbing, so I decided to stay out of your way. I just wanted to comfort you, that's all. I had no use for an umbrella, Seward explained. To tell you the truth, while you were yelling, it was like you were going to try to strangle me if I told you anything. He's probably right. I was so angry that I had absolutely no control over my speech. Come to think of it, I even swore a few times, and that's probably why he said he couldn't interrupt me and preferred to stand in the rain with me. Thought to herself, Miriam. They leave the faucet open in the winter. Do you know why? So that the water doesn't freeze in it. It's the same with people. If you don't give vent to your feelings when they are warm, they will freeze and break a person from the inside, said Seward to the girl. So you can cry as much as you want. You are doing the right thing by letting your feelings out. You don't need to be embarrassed by me. Act as you see fit. When God created him, he gave such beautiful lips so Seward would only say good things. I've never heard him belittle anyone or speak harsh words. He always seems to be in a good mood, noted Miriam to herself. Stop trying to understand everything I do. It can become a bad habit. You always say everything is fine, so around you I start acting stupid. Openly showing feelings to those around you is actually unpleasant, mumbled the girl. Then let's go to a restaurant with you and eat something delicious, Seward suggested. You want me to go to a restaurant like this? I'm completely soaked. It would be extremely uncomfortable to go into a decent establishment like this, so let's just go home. After all that yelling, I feel really hungry. I can just feel my stomach rumbling. If you want, I can cook us some kind of meal. And don't worry, I'm a pretty good cook. Cookie, you're my pretty girl! Miriam clutched the cat tightly to her. She stroked her relentlessly and said sweet words to her. It's been 5 years since I took this cat into my home. I've raised her like my own daughter. I swear I've never been jealous or envious of her. But things are different now. I just wrestled Miriam away from her ex, and it turns out I now have to compete with a cat. Seward thought irritably. Can I shower at your place again? I haven't had the pipes repaired yet. Please tell me the code to your apartment so I don't have to sneak into your house through the window, asked Seward of the girl. Seward offered the girl his help in the kitchen, but she refused. Miriam decided to prepare her crowning dish. All the ingredients for this dish she kept in the strictest secret. When the dinner was over, a message from her producer came to the girl's phone. The producer was worried that Miriam never changed her profile picture. If there was any change in her life, the public should be told about it. Is something wrong? Are you kind of tense? Seward asked the girl. I just got a text from my producer. She wants me to change my profile picture. After I broke up with Roderick, I never changed my status. By the way, please show me your hands, asked Miriam. Soon there will be a rumor that I'm dating someone, so I think I should update my profile picture. You have very beautiful and strong hands. They would be perfect for the picture. Miriam took Seward's hand and started taking pictures. Is this a picture for your profile picture? Savard clarified. If you want people to know about your relationship, it has to be done properly. Seward pulled 2 rings from behind his sinus. They were strung on a lavsan cord. If we wear paired rings, things will look a lot more believable. Seward placed the ring on the girl's ring finger. Miriam, there's no need to be nervous. Relax. If you feel stiff, the camera will definitely convey that. Seward began taking pictures of their hands. He approached the task extremely responsibly, taking pictures of their hands from different angles and in different lighting. Thank you for helping me with the photos. I would like to point out that this ring was the right size for me. Is it by any chance your ex-girlfriend's ring? Asked Miriam. Miriam, I was thinking about what you said to me in the car. I think I know what you meant. You don't want me to try to understand you so I don't spoil you. Seward took the girl's hand. You see me as a brother, but I never thought of you as an older sister, and I will never think of you that way. I don't know what would have happened to us if you and I had dated. But I'm not going to ask you that now because I'm afraid you won't want to see me again if I do, so I'm keeping it to myself. You told me to wait, so I'm waiting. I don't know if there's any point in asking him about that incident. It happened just as our relationship was starting to work out. But if I continue to keep quiet, I'll never know why he did it. Miriam thought to herself. Suddenly, a telephone call came from the next room. Seward got up from the floor and went to fetch the phone. Yes, it's the doctor from the veterinary clinic. What do you say? A dog is giving birth? Is it her first labor? You just calm down and don't do anything. And if you have the opportunity, you'd better come to the clinic, said Seward into the phone. Miriam, I have an urgent call. I have to go to the clinic. If you want, you can stay here and play with Cookie. Make yourself at home. Call me if anything happens, Seward asked and slipped out the door. I always thought what he felt was just stupid. So when he tried to find a way to fix our relationship, I just avoided him. I always thought it was easy for people to mistake their superficial feelings for deep love. I feel like things are back to normal again. Maybe someday there will come a time when our feelings will become clearer. Until then, I'll just have to wait. To distract herself, Miriam decided to make dinner for herself. After spending a few hours in the kitchen, she noticed that she had cooked too much. She decided to treat Seward to her meal. Listen, I made some soup here, but I just now realized that it's going to be too much for me. Do you want to take some when you get home? Asked Miriam. If you're offering, I'll gratefully accept it, replied Seward. Okay, I'll be waiting for you. Be careful while driving. In the evening, Miriam decided to prepare food for Seward. Suddenly, she heard a knock on the door. Opening the door, Miriam saw a man in glasses unknown to her. She was startled and fell into a stupor. In the stairwell, Seward bumped into the man with glasses. After saying hello to him, he walked toward his apartment. You sensed I was coming soon, so you came out to meet me, Seward asked with a smile. Seward took the girl by the shoulders and led her into the apartment. Out of the corner of her eye, Miriam saw an unknown man in glasses walking up the stairs. Seward noticed that the girl was trembling. I'll stay in your apartment for a while, okay? Seward asked and walked into the living room. Aren't you tired after a hard day's work? Miriam inquired. Tired, but after seeing you, I feel better too. With a smile, Seward replied. Though no, I am tired after all. I'm going to stay here. I'll sleep on this couch. Seward sat down on the couch in the living room. Hey, wait, what do you mean? You have your own house, so go there. Why are you going to sleep here? Miriam pulled Seward by the arms. Suddenly she noticed that his arm was bandaged and there was a fresh scratch on his cheek. There was an extremely agitated patient at the polyclinic today. He scratched my arm and cheek. In a veterinary clinic, that happens sometimes. Narrated Seward. What about walking home together after work? Why are you bringing that up all of a sudden? Are you worried about me? I think that would be extremely inconvenient. I know your schedule. You might come home much later than me. How will we travel together then? Miriam asked, surprised. Didn't you tell me you were preparing for a new project? After your classes, you can work on it in the office while you wait for me. In addition, there's a cafe on the first floor of your office. It has all the equipment you need to work there. And if I have to perform surgery or work the night shift, I'll drive you home first and then come back to the clinic. It's more convenient to drive than to take the bus. I don't know. I don't want to cause you any trouble, Miriam admitted. I'm saying this because I want to do this for you. And if you feel burdened about it, you can treat me to a meal every now and then, or you can just spend your free time with me. So, do we have a deal? Seward insisted. On top of that, don't forget that I promised your brother I would take care of you. Bear with me, at least until Trevor gets back. I also want to remind you that I will never see you as a sibling, but you will always be as important to me as my family. I know that, and I want to assure you that you are very important to me as well. I value you just as much as I value my own brother Trevor. I love you like a member of the family. Miriam said with a smile. The next day, Seward sent the girl a message reminding her that they had agreed to go home together every night. There was also a message from the producer. She suggested to meet at a cafe. Seeing Miriam entering the cafe, Irma waved cheerfully at her. "It's been a long time since I've seen you. How are you doing? Are you still working late?" asked Miriam, walking over to the table. "To be honest, I can't even tell the difference between office and home anymore. Sometimes I feel like I practically belong there." Laughing merrily, Irma replied, "And why did you invite me to this cafe? Is there something you want to talk to me about?" asked Miriam. "Look, well, what can I talk to you about other than work? But I also want to discuss your personal life. Answer me, why did you break up with Roderick? I'm not asking this out of idle curiosity. It's important to me that my writers feel comfortable." "Does my personal relationship have any bearing on my work? What makes you think anything is wrong?" Miriam wondered. "Why all the questions? I can clearly separate work and personal life." Miriam thought irritably. "Can't you repair your relationship after all? Is there any chance of you getting back together? What about a new relationship? Are you already seeing someone?" The producer began pouring in with questions. "I absolutely don't want a relationship right now. I'm comfortable as I am." Miriam waved her hands. "But you need a relationship for inspiration. I mean, you write romance. Would you like me to introduce you to a very attractive young man?" Irma asked. "Let me tell you better why I broke up with the writer Roderick Phillison," said Miriam doomily. Roderick was the only child of famous scientists. To become a writer, he graduated from the university his parents chose. He is very capable, so his books are popular. I first met him as his fan, but after a while we started dating. He is not the kind of person who thinks that process is more important than the result. He often gave me advice, which was usually in the form of criticism rather than support. His criticism hurt me a lot. After a while, talking about work started to irritate me. That's when the theft incident happened. Roderick blamed me for what happened. When he came to my hospital room, he shouted furiously that I should have been more careful and cautious. He blamed me for not fixing the door in time. If I had been more careful about my property, this wouldn't have happened. As soon as I got out of the hospital, Roderick demanded that I get to work. He said that because of the theft incident and I had lost myself, I had become more withdrawn and reserved. He encouraged me to change, to be what he wanted me to be. I didn't understand why I should feel like a failure when talking to my own lover. That day I told him I wanted to break up with him. I was sick of this kind of relationship. I thought that when I broke up with him and I would immediately feel better, but I still can't get back to writing the book. I don't know exactly what was my downfall. Maybe it was because he stomped on my confidence, or maybe there's some other reason. Oh, this is all very complicated. I suggest you have a drink and relax a little. Since you broke up because of his temper, there's no point in rekindling the relationship. But that doesn't mean you have to give up on yourself. Irma poured the soju into 2 shots. "Which is why I suggest you make a date with that handsome man. You need to move on. Hang out with him at least once." Miriam considered telling the producer she was in a new relationship, but decided against lying. Lying once would mean lying all the time. "I'm not dating Roderick anymore, but I won't date your handsome boyfriend just because I don't have a new boyfriend," Miriam said in a firm voice. "Well then, I suggest we end our socializing for today. I was actually asked to have this meeting by Roderick. He suggested that the 3 of us meet here, but we had to make it look natural," Irma admitted. "I realize I did wrong, but he looked like he had a lot to say. After listening to you, I realized I shouldn't intrude on your relationship. You can go. I'll take care of him." "Miriam, you are aware of the fact that Roderick's work is still ranked #1 in the rankings, right? He's been trying not to show it, but honestly, he's been looking like a zombie lately. But despite his condition, he finished his work on time. Every time I read his books, I'm enthralled. So you can do it too. I believe in you." Irma clenched her hand tightly into a fist. And speaking of relationships, if you meet your destiny, by all means start dating. Who knows? Maybe your cells will fill up with love again and you'll start creating amazing projects. Now go. You need to rein in your work. And always remember you're writing in the romance genre, not fantasy. Back home on the bus, Miriam sent a message to Seward where she asked him not to wait for her. She was almost to the house. As she got off the bus, Miriam came face to face with Seward. This encounter surprised her immensely. "I was just walking to the convenience store past this stop. Don't worry, I'm not following you. It's just a coincidence," said Seward to the girl. But she realized he was deceiving her. Should I listen to the producer and start a relationship with Seward? But after all, he is a whole year younger than me. Will that be a barrier in the relationship? Besides, this guy is too good-looking, thought Miriam on her way home. But will I be able to pay attention to some other man? After dealing with Seward, my demands have gone up a bit. Will some other man be able to live up to them? What are you thinking about right now? You have a very strange expression on your face, Seward said unexpectedly. Miriam hurriedly turned away from him. The next day, Seward stopped by Miriam's workplace to go home with her. "I got a call from Trevor today. He wants me to come and visit him," told Miriam. "I know he called me too. He wants me to come visit him this weekend too." "Yeah, how could he ask a busy doctor to come visit? He's kind of weird, isn't he? Veterinarian isn't such a free profession to be traveling around the country," Miriam said with a smile. She really hoped Seward wasn't going anywhere. "I'm free this weekend. I've been working the night shift lately because our head doctor needed some work done in the neighborhood. As a thank you, he gave me a little vacation." Seward shared the happy news. "But you must be tired working like this. Do you really want to go and visit my brother?" asked Miriam. "Trevor told me he would treat us like gentlemen, so I had no reason to refuse him," Seward admitted. Trevor greeted his dear guest with a happy smile on his face. "Miriam, I have been so lonely without you. You know you are very dear to me," shouted Trevor and pulled his sister tightly against him. "And this is our second store owner." Trevor pointed to a young girl standing nearby. She looked at Seward carefully. "Don't look at him like that. He's married," Trevor whispered in the girl's ear. Since there was plenty of time before dinner, Miriam decided to go to the town beach. She walked into the ankle-deep water and collected shells. Suddenly, she noticed that a high wave was coming at her. The girl squeezed her eyes shut fearfully. You can't underestimate a quiet wave. In an instant, it could swoop down on you head-on. Seward took the girl in his arms and lifted her high above the water. "Thank you for your help, and now you can let me go," said an embarrassed Miriam. Seward brought the girl her bag and shoes. The girl looked at Seward's wet pants and shoes. "Don't worry, I brought a spare pair of shoes with me," Seward reassured the girl. Sitting in the hotel room in front of Seward, Miriam noted to herself that his type would be perfect for the role of the main character. The girl decided to quickly sketch his portrait. "And how's your work coming along? Are you drawing me now by any chance?" Seward asked. "No, I just had a sudden inspiration," Miriam exclaimed. "And I'm right after all. You are painting me," Seward said with a laugh. "Just don't make a fuss about it. Encourage me, and if I succeed, I'll treat you to beef," Miriam promised. "And what do I have to do to help you?" Seward enthused. "Well, try to play it cool. You must have poses in which you confidently display your attractiveness, mustn't you? Practically all my attractiveness lies in my lips. I'm often told I have very pretty lips." Seward touched his lips. "And what, there's nothing else?" Miriam asked incredulously. Suddenly, Seward rose from his seat and began to undo the buttons on his shirt. "What are you doing?" Miriam wailed fearfully. "I want to show you my attractive side. You told me to show you a body part I'm sure of. I'll show it especially for you." Seward replied. "I didn't say that to you. I meant attractive poses, so stop," asked Miriam. "You're wrong to refuse. My lips are certainly beautiful, but my abs are much more attractive. It's getting darker and cooler, so let's go inside," Seward suggested. "Thanks, but I'll stay here. I still want to work," replied Miriam to him. A while later, Seward held out a plaid to the girl. "Don't sit here too long or you'll catch a cold," Seward asked the girl. The weekend flew by very quickly. Miriam would have loved to stay in the city for a longer period of time, but she had to get back to work. The short vacation had a huge impact on Miriam. She received a lot of inspiration and was immersed in her work day and night. A few days later, she turned in her book. Miriam, the prologue and the first chapter of your book are completely different. They seem very real. The characters have become so animated. I knew you could do the job, shouted the joyful producer into the phone. So what happened? What affected your work? Did you really get a boyfriend? Still no boyfriend, but I guess you could say I had a new experience this weekend. Miriam admitted and hung up the phone. Yes, I managed to publish a book even without Roderick's help. Still, I can live and create without him. At last, my new full-fledged creation will see the world. Miriam thought to herself joyfully. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Opening the door, Miriam saw her friend Phyllis. How did you end up here? When did you manage to get back to the city? Miriam asked, surprised. Well, I see you're quite surprised. I rushed to see you as soon as I flew here. Now, I am going to live in this city. I'm glad, after all these years, to finally see you. Phyllis replied. Phyllis did not know about the incident that happened to Miriam for a long time, but then she was very sorry that she could not be there for her. Miriam purposely didn't tell her about the incident so that Phyllis wouldn't go back to town and rush to her rescue. Suddenly, Seward appeared on the landing. And what are you doing here? Phyllis wondered. Seward answered the girl that he lived next door. The memories came back to Miriam. She remembered that she had seen Seward kissing a girl very similar to Phyllis. The whole situation made Miriam very uncomfortable. Lately, I've been busy preparing for my homecoming. That's why I didn't know that you moved in next door. I wanted to surprise you, but you ended up surprising me, Phyllis exclaimed. And what are we going to do about dinner, Miriam? Seward held out a bag of food to the girl. Oh, I'm sorry, you appeared to have plans for tonight? Phyllis asked, surprised. What am I supposed to do now? Phyllis came here right after her return to see me. I can't just send her home now. Also, I can't say no to Seward since he and I had plans for tonight. Thought to herself Miriam. I came to you very unexpectedly, didn't I? Hurry up and go and have dinner for the two of you. And to be honest, I just wanted to say hello to you and leave. We'll chat with you some other time. Have a nice dinner. Phyllis patted her friend on the shoulder and hurried away. Phyllis could feel her cheeks burning with excitement. The girl thought things would get better with time, but no. Although Seward looked very soft, but in reality he actually smelled cold. Looking at Seward, Phyllis felt her heart racing again. She didn't expect that her friend and Seward were neighbors. Does Seward really still love Miriam? So he has a chance to rebuild the relationship, Phyllis thought to herself. So, are we going to eat at your place or mine? Seward asked Miriam. The girl was amazed at his restraint. He acted as if nothing had happened. I'm sorry, but I suddenly feel very bad. But don't worry, it's nothing. I think I just need to get some rest. Let's eat together another time, asked Miriam. Okay, but if you suddenly feel worse, make sure you call me. I will take you to the hospital, Savard replied. The next day, Phyllis came to her friend Miriam again and told her about her job as a blogger. Listen, how is Seward doing? Where's he working? Phyllis asked as if casually. Miriam guessed that her friend was still in love with Seward. Most likely after meeting him, her feelings had been reawakened. He became a veterinarian as he wanted. He works at the clinic across from the art academy, Miriam told her. After meeting her friend, Phyllis went to the veterinary clinic. The girl felt extremely awkward. She really wanted to go inside to meet Seward, but she was very afraid of his reaction. Suddenly, Seward appeared on the threshold of the clinic. Phyllis hurriedly hid behind the dog statue standing near the entrance. That white robe suits him so well. Now we can go home. It was enough for me to see him, enthusiastically thought the girl. Walking back to the car, the girl heard the kitten's pitiful meow. She had a plan. The girl wanted to take the kitten in her arms, but it began to hiss menacingly. The kitten was skinny, dirty, and seemed very aggressive. He won't die if we leave him here, will he? Phyllis thought to herself. Come on down and I'll take you to the clinic. I promise I won't hurt you. The girl held out her hand to the kitten. She decided not to deviate from her earlier plan. Suddenly, the kitten scratched her hand. "Excuse me, can I help you?" asked a guy who approached. The guy took the kitten off the fence and put it in a box. Apparently, the cat took all her kittens and left, but for some reason, she left him behind. I think he was the weakest, or people were picking him up. I could take him to the homeless animal shelter, but it's too late now. I think we should start by showing him to the vet. This kitten is skinny and has pretty rare fur. I already have several cats at home, so I won't be able to take him for myself. In a sad voice, the guy said. Phyllis took the box with the kitten from the guy and went to the veterinary clinic where Syward worked. From Syward's look, the girl realized that he didn't want to see her. All her efforts had been for nothing. "I didn't come here to bother you. I picked up this kitten in the parking lot. I don't know what to do with it, and I don't want to throw it away," Phyllis said. Seward gave the kitten to the orderlies and offered the girl some forms to fill out. "Answer me a few questions. Where did you find the kitten? By the way, I noticed a scratch on your arm. Did he scratch you? Let me see your wound." After examining the wound, Syward pulled an antibacterial ointment and a Band-Aid from his desk drawer. He warned the girl that the ointment might sting a bit. "By the way, what do you plan to do next with the kitten?" Seward asked. The girl answered him that she was going to take the kitten into her care. "That's strange. You always said you didn't like animals, didn't you? But okay, though. He's very weak, so you'll have to keep an eye on him all the time. He'll be at the clinic for 24 hours, and then you can take him home," said Seward, rising from his seat. "I will contact you tomorrow, so you can go home now. Don't worry about the kitten. I'm staying here on the night shift, so I'll personally look after him. But I can't leave him without my supervision. I'm already, I guess you could say, attached to him with all my heart. I want to stay at the clinic overnight," Phyllis exclaimed. "Do as you think best," Seward answered the girl. Syward's words made the girl extremely happy. She even began to imagine how she would communicate with him on various topics. After a while, Phyllis noticed that Seward had changed into ordinary street clothes. The girl became very curious where he was going. "I was let go by my supervisor, but you don't worry, you can stay here. I warned you that you would be near your kitten," replied Seward to the girl. "Excuse me, are you the guardian of that kitten? Please accompany me to the waiting room," asked the girl to the head of the veterinary clinic. At first, Seward doubted Phyllis's true intentions, but his supervisor told him that the girl had led the entire night by the kitten's side. Maybe she had really changed? Maybe she became kinder and more sympathetic? 3 months flew by imperceptibly. Trevor opened a second store in a neighboring town and returned home. "I didn't expect you to throw a party in my honor," exclaimed Trevor. A short time later, Phyllis came to visit the boys. "I had some business nearby, so passing by your house, I decided to stop by. I didn't even realize you were all here together today. I hope I'm not disturbing you," said Phyllis. "Oh, come on! The more people, the merrier. Join our table," exclaimed Trevor, grabbing the girl's hand. "Since we're all gathered with you all, I involuntarily remembered the graduation ceremony," said Miriam. Let's not talk about that. Remember how many pictures were taken then because of Syward's wiggles?" Trevor said with a laugh. Phyllis remembered the graduation ceremony, too. That day was the first time she had seen the man she had fallen in love with once and for all. "Hi, I'm a friend of Miriam's. My name is Phyllis. What's your name?" asked the girl to the guy she liked. "My name is Seward. I am friends with Miriam and know all her friends, but this is the first time I've seen you." After a while, Phyllis found out that her father was friends with Seward's parents. She asked her father if he could invite them to visit. The girl noticed that during dinner, Seward behaved very modestly. Next to Miriam, he was more open and swaggering. Then Syward went to America for a year to study. Phyllis could follow his life through social networks. Before he left, he never gave her his phone number. A year later, Seward's parents invited Phyllis's family to visit them. Phyllis waited for a second meeting with Seward with great excitement, but unfortunately, he was not happy to see the girl. During dinner, Seward went outside for some fresh air. Phyllis went after him. "I understand you had a meeting scheduled for this evening, but you canceled it because of dinner with my parents. I'm sorry if I interrupted your plans," said Phyllis. "Don't apologize. It's not your fault. It's just that my father says some really embarrassing things, so I decided to stop this conversation. Please apologize to him for that. And please pretend like you didn't hear anything," asked the girl seaward. "If you're talking about matchmaking now, then you shouldn't apologize," exclaimed Phyllis. "I was absolutely not embarrassed," Phyllis admitted. "A year ago, and I asked my father to organize that dinner. And I came here tonight because I wanted to. I like you. I realized that from the beginning." Suddenly, Phyllis grabbed Sayward's face and kissed her lips. She didn't do it because she had the courage, but because she simply wouldn't be able to survive the rejection. "If you do that again," Seward hissed. "Do what?" asked Seward's father, who had suddenly appeared. "I invited you, but there was some strange atmosphere. I apologize for that. It's getting cold, so you'd better come inside," said Seward's father in an apologetic tone. When Phyllis returned home in the evening, she called her friend Miriam and told her that she had a boyfriend. On their first date, Seward confessed to Phyllis that he had liked Miriam for a long time. "Does Miriam herself know about this?" Phyllis asked. "No, she doesn't, but I want to tell her about it," replied Seward. "I think Miriam sees you as a brother. She hardly sees you as her boyfriend. That's what she always told me." Phyllis hoped to sow doubt in Seward with her words. "Are you finished? If so, I'm going to go. Even if Miriam sees me as a brother, I want to hear it from her personally." Seward rose from his seat and left the cafe. That same evening, dropping tears, Phyllis told her friend Mariam that her relationship with her boyfriend had ended before it had even begun. Phyllis was ashamed in front of her friend, so she decided not to tell her the whole truth. On top of that, she was now the girl who had been rejected by the guy she liked. Her pride was hurt. 5 years later, shortly before leaving for America, Phyllis decided to meet Seward again. The girl told him that her friend Mariam had a boyfriend. Surprisingly, Seward reacted quite calmly to this information. "I personally know Mariam's boyfriend. We worked together for a while. I think he's a pretty good person. Mariam told me that they are going to get married soon," narrated Phyllis. "Even so, it's unlikely I'll ever meet her again," replied Seward. "Thank you very much for this evening, but I'll be going. If I linger here any longer, it will be very hard for me to get up tomorrow morning," said Phyllis, and rose from her seat. Trevor wanted to walk the girl to her car, but she refused. "You can see that Seward still loves Mariam. I also noticed that she feels the same way about him. I've promised myself many times that I won't regret what happened again, but I'm not getting anywhere," thought Phyllis on the way home. "I promised myself I wouldn't try everything more than 3 times. I must ask Seward again about our relationship. However, I have a feeling it won't work out. But I think it's worth a try, or I'll regret it afterward." As he walked back home, Seward noticed Mariam walking along the sidewalk. He offered the girl a ride home. A message arrived on Mariam's phone. After reading it, the girl sighed heavily. "And who did the message come from? Is the ex still texting you?" Seward asked. "No, it's just sending out unnecessary advertisements." Shaking her head, the girl replied, "If he suddenly calls or writes to you again, you can use me. It's the surest and most effective way," reminded the girl Seward. "Well, how can I use you? You're not a thing." Mariam was indignant. "Do you remember that when your brother was little, someone hit him and you went up to that person and lashed out twice as hard? Well, I was very jealous then. I wanted someone to protect me like that, too. But then a couple days later, I got a scratch and you reacted completely differently. You were extremely agitated and scared." "Yeah," Trevor said at the time that you got what you deserved from the girls. Mariam remembered. Seward received a call from his younger sister, Pamela. She reminded him of his upcoming birthday party. She asked him to come in a black and white outfit and be sure to bring a partner. "I wonder who I should go with now," Seward asked thoughtfully. "Mariam, and let's go to my sister's birthday party together. I'm sure you'll get along with her." Mariam remembered Seward's father. The man intimidated her, but after a little thought, she still agreed. Trevor talked his friend into taking him to his sister's birthday party as well. It turned out that although they were good friends, Trevor had never been a guest of Syward's. The birthday girl came out to greet the guests. Today was Pamela's 12th birthday. "Hi, do you recognize me? You and I used to call each other a lot on video," said Trevor to the girl. Pamela replied to him that she remembered and that he turned out to be much more handsome in person. "And my name is Mariam." "I figured as much. My brother has told me a lot about you, but I won't say what." With a cheerful giggle, Pamela said, "Welcome to our home." Seward's father and mother came out into the hall. "Mariam, I'm glad you came after all," Seward exclaimed. The girl noted to herself that he was incredibly handsome today. "It's your sister's party tonight, so why are you dressed like a prince? It's like you're supposed to be congratulated." Trevor was indignant. Phyllis walked into the hall. "Hello, thank you so much for inviting me." Phyllis bowed to Syward's father. "Mom, now that everyone is here, let's get the party started," Pamela asked her mother. "Where do the parents of my son's friends work?" asked Seward's father, Mr. Silverstone, to Trevor and Mariam. "Dad is in construction and Mom is a housewife. Dad is the manager of the architecture department," replied Mariam. "I see, an architect then. What do you do?" Mr. Silverstone asked the next question. "I served in the army, and after that I couldn't find myself for a long time. It took me a long time to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, what was important to me, what I want to do so that I can live in the future without regretting the choices I made." Trevor began to tell the story. "For a long time I was in doubt, but now I've made up my mind. I went to Europe, and after that I began to realize what life path I should choose. When I got home, I decided to open 2 sandwich stores, one in our town and one in a neighboring town." "Enough! I've already realized that your parents raised you decently." Mr. Silverstone stopped Trevor's monologue. He asked Mariam what she did for a living. "And I am a teacher at an art academy. In my spare time, I write books," replied the girl. "Phyllis, what do you do at the moment?" Mr. Silverstone asked. "I'm modeling for a cosmetics brand. I also make YouTube videos. I have my own channel there," told Phyllis. "That's so cool that you have a channel. Did you start it recently, or do you have a lot of subscribers already?" admired Pamela. "I'm shocked. I have very talented people sitting in front of me. When my friends find out that a model and a writer came to my birthday party, they'll be very surprised." "Pamela, what do you think of Phyllis as your older brother's girlfriend? Don't you think they look good together?" Mr. Silverstone asked his daughter. "Dad, if it's a joke, it's not funny," Seward exclaimed. Phyllis blushed and lowered her head to the floor. Mr. Silverstone walked over to his son and motioned for him to follow him into the workroom. Walking around the house, Mariam saw a shared picture of the Silverstone family. "And there you are! Let's go back to the table. Dessert has been served there," said Mrs. Silverstone, who approached. "Why isn't Seward in this picture?" asked Mariam. "He had business that day, so he didn't come. You already know he is a very busy man," replied Mrs. Silverstone. "But it's a family photo. Couldn't you have waited for him? What's the point of a family photo if it doesn't have all the family members in it?" Mariam thought in surprise. She really wanted to go home as soon as possible. The atmosphere in this house was weighing on her. Returning to the living room, Mariam heard the voices of Seward and his father. "This is all because of your stepmother, isn't it? If you're not happy with anything here, you can pack your things and leave this house. You inherited all this independence from your mother." In an angry voice, Mr. Silverstone spoke. "If you do as you should, it will be good not only for me, but for you as well. There will be no trouble in the future. After all, why do you protest so much?" "For the moment, I'm satisfied with everything. I don't want to change anything. And you'd better be around people who need you. I'm all grown up now. I don't need you," Seward replied. "You ingrate!" shouted Mr. Silverstone and slapped his son in the face. Mariam ran into the study and closed Seward in with her. Mr. Silverstone grabbed the vase with the flower and threw it at his son. Seward managed to cover himself with his hand. There was the sound of breaking glass. An agitated Trevor burst into the study. He was followed by Phyllis, and Mrs. Silverstone rushed in. "What happened here?" Trevor asked in surprise. Lowering his eyes, he saw a broken vase on the floor. Trevor immediately guessed what had happened. "I think that's it for now. We need to go," said Trevor to Mr. Silverstone. Mrs. Silverstone asked Syward to stay a little longer. She wanted to talk to him. "I understand you have a place to stay. You don't have to come here. And I think you should separate from us now for all our sakes." "Well, how can you say that? Seward doesn't come here for you. He comes here for his sister," Trevor exclaimed. "Calm down, it's okay." Seward patted his friend on the shoulder. He wished his family a good evening and left the house. Phyllis finally realized that the relationship between Mariam and Seward was very strong. She realized that all her efforts were in vain. Now it was time to break the old thread that she herself had tangled. As she approached the apartment, Mariam asked Seward for a hug. She could see that he was upset about what had happened, so she wanted to comfort him. Seward walked up to the girl and held her tightly against him. "Mariam, at the moment you are my best friend and my family. Thank you for that. I'm happy to death to have you," Seward whispered. "What are you guys doing here?" asked Trevor, walking up to his apartment. Mariam pushed Seward away from her with force. "Why aren't you saying anything? I asked you what you were doing. Why were you hugging?" Trevor insisted. "You see, Mariam was overwhelmed with love for humanity, and I just happened to be around. She decided to pour her love out on me," Seward replied. "Are you saying that my sister hugged you because of an overwhelming love for humans? Don't be ridiculous. Knowing my sister, she would have knocked you on the head instead of climbing up with a hug." Trevor resented. "How do you know what happened before you got here? What if she did knock me once? Your sister asked me why I hadn't told her anything before. She was sad and emotional and let out a tear, so I hugged her." Seward continued to justify himself. "Trevor, did you know what was going on in your friend's family? If so, why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you tell me anything?" Mariam asked in an annoyed voice. "I didn't know the whole story. I was only aware that Seward is the son from his first marriage. He never told me that he had a bad relationship with his stepmother," explained Trevor to his sister. "It was known to me that he had a bad relationship with his father. His father raised his hand against him all the way through high school. You should have seen the wounds on his lips. I still can't believe that his father hit him in front of his friends, and his stepmother hung a family picture in the most prominent place that doesn't have Seward in it. The strange thing is that he stayed calm after being told not to show up at home. But on the other hand, I'm glad he's finally severed ties with his family. I'm sure it's for the best for him." Trevor went into his room and closed the door tightly behind him. After a little thought, he called out to his sister. "Mariam, at least for now, please be nice to Seward. If there is something you are disappointed in him about, then let it go. Do you know that all these 10 years he's been constantly asking me how you're doing?" said Trevor from behind the door. "I noticed that as soon as you turned 20, you became dismissive of him. How could you not once visit the man you considered family when he went into the army? Did something happen between you two?" "What about if something happened that upset me a lot?" the girl asked. She felt tears come to her eyes. "But you've known Seward for a long time. He's not the kind of person who disappoints. Maybe you should clarify this whole situation and finally let it go," Trevor asked his sister. The girl couldn't help but admit that he was right. Walking across the parking lot, Mariam heard a pitiful meow. Exploring the parking lot, the girl noticed a cat sitting on a high fence. The animal was meowing loudly as if calling for help. Finding crates in the parking lot, Mariam constructed a ladder. "Hi, why are you meowing so loudly? Are you in pain?" asked Miriam to the cat after climbing the fence. Suddenly, the crates fell to the ground with a clatter. Frightened, the cat jumped off the fence. "Now I'll have to call my brother again and listen to his moralizing," Mariam thought wistfully. "Mariam, what are you doing here?" a surprised Seward asked the approaching woman. "Help me down, please. I ended up on this fence by accident. I was walking through the parking lot and heard a loud meow. I climbed up here to save the cat," narrated the girl. "You see those crates over there? I used them to climb up here. But then they fell down, and now I can't get off this bolt. Come here. I'll help you get down. Seward held out his arms to the girl. Of course, Miriam was scared, but she decided to trust Seward. If that happens again, you better call me. Don't climb fences. It's dangerous. You could fall off it and break your arm. Seward gently stroked the girl's head. As the cat meowed incessantly, Seward swung over the fence and found the animal and hid it behind his back. After a while, Seward swung over the fence again and returned thus to the parking lot. Look at that! That cat looks even cuter up close. By the way, I remembered that she lives in a cafe not far from here. We could walk over and take her there. Shall we go together? Seward suggested. Yes, of course, answered Miriam. Suddenly the girl felt that she trusted Seward, that she was ready to go with him even to the end of the world. The past was finally forgotten, now only forward.